With the state of today's economy, it's more important than ever to invest in products that last for years to come. As the seasons shift and get cooler, make sure your closet is stocked with durable layers that stand the test of time from American Giant. American Giant's clothes work harder and are wearable season after season. Their greatest hoodie ever made is made from the highest quality materials that are cut and sewn right here in the United States. So you're investing right back in your local community. Choosing American Giant means taking a stand for American manufacturing and hardworking Americans, something other mega corporations don't care about. From fleece to knit, all in a range of colors for versatile daily wear, American Giant delivers everyday pieces designed for everyday life. Feel the difference of quality, made-to-last clothes from American Giant. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at american-giant.com with code STAPLE20.
Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 156 of Sports Management Podcast. If you have ever learned anything from this show, please show your gratitude by subscribing to the podcast in your podcast app. And if you feel extra generous, leave a 5-star review. This will help the show grow, and the bigger the show, the bigger the guests. Thank you. Welcome to episode 157 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is John Koufis. He's the majority owner and CEO of Johnstown Tomahawks ice hockey team, the general manager for the Greek national hockey team, and an experienced CFO. We spoke about the process of becoming an owner of a team, his top 5 hockey movies, becoming GM of the Greek national team, Greek hockey and its development, being awarded the 2024 Adult Player of the Year by USA Hockey, and much more. John Koufis, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you, Marcus. Glad to be here.
It's my great pleasure to have you on the show. We spoke here a little bit earlier about a lot of people that we know in common, but first time we meet here today. So really, really excited to have you on the show.
Excited to be here again, and thank you for the time.
You are an experienced CFO and been working in high positions in several companies, but I'm thinking that maybe today we're focusing more on the sporting side of what you do. So you are the majority owner and CEO of Johnstown Tomahawks, as well as the general manager for the Greek national hockey team.
Correct.
Yeah, let's start with the Johnstown. How did that come about? How did you become a majority owner there?
I'd come across, my son had been playing junior hockey. He was playing at Johnstown for a little bit and had met one of the minority owners. And he casually mentioned, as we got to know each other a little bit, would you ever be interested in possibly an ownership position, in hockey or with the team? And then he went on to explain that the current majority owners, that ownership group had been in place for 10, 11 years. And that if there was a change, would you be interested? And it was sort of just a very generic question. I'm like, I'll listen to anything, right? Business is business. And again, business and hockey, right? Obviously a great combination. And lo and behold, there was some talk of a change of the team maybe being sold. And I got involved to look at the deal. And once we sort of got into it, it happened, frankly, very quickly. The initial conversation was late 2021. And once we really kind of got going into it, February of 23 was when it got really serious in terms of taking a look at it. And we closed May 1st of 23. It happened literally within 60 days.
Wow. So, this is an interesting case because, for example, in Sweden, where I am, you don't buy and sell teams in the same way as maybe in the United States. So can you explain a little bit the process? You mentioned it went through very quickly, but how is the process there?
The process is really, there's 2 ways to sort of get into our league, the North American Hockey League. You either approach the league with a business plan and get approved for an expansion franchise, or you purchase one of the current teams, and then certainly then you have the prerogative to move that team to a different city or continue where you're at. So the process is really no different on the buy side than any other business transaction. You exchange financial information, you look at the performance of the business, in this case, the team, and then you make an offer. And, you have that usual back and forth sort of negotiation, and you settle on a price and you execute the documents, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. No different than any other, business transaction where you're buying and selling, large multinational companies.
I understand. So, obviously you need to, as you said, come to a price and have the team evaluated. And then in your mind, like, how are you seeing this as a long-term investment, or is it that you buy a team and then to sell in X amount of years? And how is the thinking process around that?
My thinking process might be different than a traditional deal process, particularly if you're in something like private equity, where you buy a company and then you kind of do what you want to do with it in a, call it 3 to 5 year window, and then you sell it, return money to your investors, and move on. In this situation, having the passion of hockey that I have, this was really more an opportunity to combine again my business experience with hockey, and very much long term. Knock on wood, I'm 4 or 5 years out from retirement, from the CFO day job, if you will. And this is, I couldn't do nothing, right? I had to do something. And this is certainly an amazing way to be able to spend in my mind, to go to be able to spend my retirement years. So it's very much long term.
I see. And I think that's healthy from a business perspective it's easier to make to have a long-term play in order to try to make a quick buck, in quotes.
Yeah. This is definitely not about making a buck. It's really more about, having seen the junior experience firsthand, seeing friends of mine and their children's experience firsthand. It was really sort of about, can we do a better mousetrap? Can we give more to the kids? So they look back on that 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is they spend in juniors. They look back, particularly at Johnstown, that, my God, that was the best 4 years of my life.
So how did you get into hockey in the first place? You have Greek heritage, and although both of us, have played a little bit of hockey there, and it definitely exists, but obviously not one of the major sports in that country.
Correct. For myself, parents had immigrated to the States, and I was playing Little League baseball at age 9. I skated a little bit, and then when the baseball season ended, one of my friends was in a hurry. I'm like, "Where are you going?" I got to go for hockey. And so it was the usual, hey, I want to play too, right? And so they took me over, and we bought literally everything. I had nothing. So we bought literally everything head to toe. I remember this was 1975. And, my dad looked at the receipt on all the gear. He's like, oh boy, and that's how it started. I started playing youth hockey at age 10 and played all the way up through some lower level juniors till I was 20. Quit for a couple of years to finish my degree at university, and then got playing into the senior adult men's league, or beer leagues, as we like to call them.
Yeah, and playing ever since.
I've been doing that ever since. I'll be 59. I'm coming up on 59. So once I got out of school, I've been playing from age 22 till today. Still playing.
Yeah. As you said, still going strong. And this year also awarded the Adult Player of the Year by USA Hockey. That's huge.
Well, yeah, a lot of that is clearly a lifetime participation type of thing, playing in the adult leagues under the USA Hockey umbrella. USA Hockey runs everything from the 5-year-olds all the way up through, they actually have a 75 years age and over national championship every year. So I've been playing under that umbrella, other than the brief period in the middle where I was participating with Greece and transferred federations, etc. But since, the late 80s. And we started this team in 91 called the Chicago Sharks, because we like the San Jose Sharks and we like the colors. That was really the basis of the decision. And we've been doing it ever since. The team's been together 34 years. We just won a 15 over national championship after finishing second 3 times the last 5 years. And so, that's 26 years after we won our first national championship in 1998 in the 18 and over division. So a lot of that award, I think, is sort of that whole body of work of participating in USA Hockey in the national championships, in the 18 and over, the 30 and over, the 40 and over, now the 50 and over. We actually have a team that played in the 60 and over last year as well. We've got 30 and under team as well that are sons of players of the original team. So it's kind of a family thing, and we've been doing it for a very, very long time. So very appreciative. I'm totally surprised. I didn't even know that award existed. It's uncomfortable because hockey is such a we thing, as you know, and that's such a me type of award, but nobody does hockey by themselves, right?
No, that's true. It's definitely a teamwork, but still, your contributions for hockey over a long time, and also now with the Johnstown Tomahawks, and also your contribution to the Greek hockey that we will dig in a little bit deeper in soon. Well deserved, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm certainly proud of it. It was a neat event. They put on a wonderful reception. I was recognized with 5 other amazing players in the game, whether it was junior, women's, the disabled category. It was just a really nice event.
Let's talk a little bit about Johnstown Tomahawks. For the people that are not really familiar with the team, explain a little bit where it's located, and the league, the NAHL, and the performance, and a little bit around the team.
Of course. So the North American Hockey League is the second best junior league in the United States, behind the USHL. In North America, we usually are in the top 5, along with the 3 major junior leagues. So very high skill level of play. Most all the players end up playing Division I or Division III college hockey coming out of our league. Our team is located in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. We are in the East Division, which has 10 teams. Johnstown, Pennsylvania also happens to be the city where the movie Slapshot was filmed. And in Slapshot, they rechristened Johnstown and called it Charleston. So the team was modeled after the Johnstown Jets, which was an old team back in the 60s and 70s that played in Johnstown. But for the movie purposes, they made it the Charlestown Chiefs. But our home arena is the actual arena that the movie was filmed in. So we play in the War Memorial. It's been refurbished, obviously, over the years. Most recently in 2015, when Johnstown won the Kraft Hockeyville award they give out. And so that helped refurbish the arena a bit. And it's a marvelous arena with marvelous history. And our Tomahawks team that came to Johnstown in 2012 were merely just a continuation of the love affair that Johnstown has with the sport of hockey.
I understand. And I didn't know that about the Slapshot movie, but everyone who's in the hockey business has seen that movie. And for everyone else, I suggest that they watch it because it's a great movie.
It's a rite of passage for anybody that plays hockey. Make sure that you're age appropriate if you're watching it. There's definitely some language and other things, but it is a cult classic, to say the least. On that note, right? We have these jokes. What's the holy grail, the Mount Everest of hockey?
On hockey movies?
Yeah, what are your 5?
Slapshot is definitely up there.
I can help you out if you want.
Yeah, please.
So there's Miracle, of course. There's the movie called Youngblood, way back with Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze. A lot of people put Goon into the list for a different sort of type of movie. And then there's another one that's actually pretty good that we kind of name in the top 5 when we talk about it, is Mystery Alaska.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's about a team in Alaska, and they get to play the New York Rangers, and it's this whole interesting outdoor hockey game. So fun. It's a fun movie. It's a good movie. What's his name is the guy from Russell Crowe is in that movie.
I see. Yeah, I have to see that one.
Exactly. So anyways, that's sort of Johnstown and the team and the history. And we just finished our first year. We're getting ready. Actually, today is our draft. Our league draft is today. Starts in about another hour and a half. So the coaches and the scouting staff are doing their thing, and I try to stay out of the way. I don't really get too involved. But the hockey people do their hockey thing. Even though I do a lot with hockey, it's their side, and then we got the business side of hockey as well.
Yeah, that's a good segue into my next question, because I wanted to ask you are the majority owner and CEO. So what is your responsibility as the CEO?
Obviously, you oversee the whole thing, right? So hockey has some type of accountability up towards myself. I spend the majority of my time on the business side, and I've learned, obviously I never owned a team before. There's the ticketing, the season tickets, our sponsors, our suite sales. We have actually 5 suites, plus 6 suites actually in the arena. So we have a gentleman named Derek Parched, who is really in charge of those corporate partnerships. And then you've got, we sell merchandise, and then we have a community coordinator that does all community events and sort of, is our way of giving back to the community and bringing awareness to the team. So Melissa handles that. Brandon's in charge of ticketing. Derek, as I mentioned, does the corporate partnership. We have a director of communications, all the social media. That's the rage these days, Lane and Moore. And then Ashley is the office manager and helps drive the merchandising piece. Everyone's sort of got their own piece of the pie that creates the whole business side.
And I think it's a good point because although like in our world, like hockey is the centerpiece in our world, or most of it at least, but as a global sport, it's not, among the top ones, but we're talking US and Canada, Sweden, Finland, and so forth. It's obviously big, but so here's a junior team, and still this is a business. It has the whole organization with the staff and everything, and it's run like a business.
Yeah, it's every bit of a business. There's sales, there's expenses, their budgets, tax returns, the whole thing. I mean, it's every bit of a proper business. The only difference is, we're not selling widgets, as they like to say. We're selling hockey, right? The product is hockey. So it's that's what makes it fun, because obviously, you love the product you're selling, right? But they're two very, very different businesses. The intersection happens with the players and the community appearances. And then Melissa, who I mentioned earlier, also handles what they call billet. She's the billet coordinator. So for those of you that don't know junior hockey, many times these kids leave their homes as early as age 16. It's usually a 4-year junior process in the States through 20. And then most college freshmen are 20 years or old when they go into college as freshmen. These kids leave their homes and they go to host families. So we have families around the Johnstown community where these kids live for the whole hockey season, and they house them and feed them and just make sure they're sort of, they become their billet parents, their hockey mom and dad while they're away from home. I mean, these kids are very far away from home, very, very far.
So like now you mentioned there is the draft, so people might, as you said, move all across the country to come play for you if they get drafted.
They would certainly come to our main camp, along with our returners, along with any other free agent invites. And then from that main camp, we'll, select 30, 35, I think it is, that will come to training camp. And there's rules where you cut down to the final roster of 25 after you get through about the first month of the season.
Interesting. You said you're a CFO in your day job, but now you're CEO. Do you have a CFO, or are you handling that as well for the team?
No, I'm handling that as well. It's a business proper, but it's not, look, if we were 10 times the size, then sure, I would, but it's your classic small business.
Makes sense. So how much would you say it differs from your other job in the, call it corporate, versus handling in the sports industry?
Well, a little different from the standpoint, I'm in manufacturing, right? So, you have a significantly, we have 8 folks that sort of work for the team. We have over 300, and certainly from the product standpoint, we're manufacturing something. So you're buying raw materials, you're using machinery and labor to build a piece of machinery, which then you have to transport and ship, kind of your A to B to C supply chain fulfillment. So there's different levers on the business, right? Versus sports, we're sort of in the entertainment industry, right? The game is the entertainment. It's no different than a movie, I suppose, right? Except the difference is the movie is the live game, right? And you have, customers coming to watch the entertainment. So, that's actually the third facet of the business, which is the in-game experience, right? How, you have the mascot running around, and you have the lights and the show and the this and the that, and, the broadcast and the cameras and the mobile. So it's a different type of fulfillment of the product. But that said, business is business. Many of the processes are exactly the same, absolutely identical.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because, as you said, business is business. So of course, there are similar things between the two. But then I was talking in a very early episode, we talked about fan engagement. And with sports, you can technically put it into 4 buckets. If you have game day at the stadium, game day not at the stadium, not game day at the stadium, not game day not at the stadium. So you need to fill these 4 buckets because there is still something, even if there is not a game, there might be some other promotion or activity. And when there is a game, obviously that's the highlight. But then how do you involve the fans and the revenue and all surrounding that?
Exactly. And that's where sort of the non-day engagement comes into play with those community appearances. We'll send out Chopper, the mascot, and he was out yesterday at a local library for a reading event. And we publicize the reading event. Parents bring the kids there, and they'll do some type of engagement with the local mascot. The kids get interested, and they become engaged in the team by virtue of that interaction.
So from your point of view, how does a game day look like?
It starts early as they start mobilizing. Our typical games will start 7 or 7:30. The doors open a little earlier for season ticket holders, but generally speaking, an hour before the game. So by the time the doors open, pretty much everyone's in place, ready to do their thing. We don't own our arena, but all the concession folks are doing their thing. We manage our own merchandise stands. All the broadcast folks that are getting ready for the broadcast, we probably go on the air 30-ish minutes before the game. All our games are streamed over NATV, which is our proprietary streaming network all over the world, frankly. We have an announcer, a color commentator. We've got 4 guys that are handling the broadcast and running the scoreboard and that sort of in-game entertainment, whatever's on the board. And obviously our scoreboard operator and our DJ in the booth and the guys taking care of the penalty box. It's really exactly like a pro game, but obviously on a much smaller scale. Music in between whistles and everything.
If we jump to the Greek hockey, it's some of the listeners might know, but I lived in Greece for a couple of years and I got introduced to the hockey community in Greece, which is just fantastic. But it dates longer back. So can you give a little bit of a historic background of the ice hockey in Greece?
Yeah, certainly. There's others that are much more knowledgeable about the history. The Cliff Notes version is my understanding from the earliest days in the early 80s. Some Czech Greek expats came back to Greece and brought the sport of hockey back with them. And there were some rinks at the time in Greece, more than there are today, frankly, full size as well. And they were playing, and there were teams, and they were doing kind of little leagues, in-country leagues, and then eventually, participated in the earliest days in the World Championships with a couple adult teams and junior teams. And that sort of was the story with a little bit of a gap in the mid-90s all the way to late 90s. And then that's when the national team went on hiatus tied to government change. I think the last full-size rink closed down, and that's a minimum participation for the IHF. But, there was a group of players led by Jimmy Koufis, who was the captain. And Jimmy, of course.
Yep.
Talk about a guy that has passion for the sport. None of it really exists at many levels without his sort of single-minded determination to keep the sport alive. We don't always get the cooperation you want from the governmental agencies, but really he sort of pushed the envelope hard in the early 2000s to get an exemption for Greece to get back into the World Championships. That's how that all sort of came about. 2008, we got back in the game with a qualifier. I was introduced to the team in the early 2000s and first flew over on my own to go practice with them in 2005. That's kind of how I started playing, even though I was a little bit older. My nickname was Grandpa. But yeah, that's sort of how it all started. And, we 5 worlds and 2 qualifiers through to 2013. And then, the 5-year exemption passed, a rink didn't get built. And then the program went dormant again. And there's a whole lot of story underneath all that, and you're very familiar with it. But most recently, we sent a team to, for the first time in 11 years to this development cup. We had full tryouts in Greece, put the team together. Some of my old teammates were actually on this team. But it was primarily composed of Generation Next. And that Generation Next are the kids that learn to skate on these small 20 by 40 rinks. There was a 25 by maybe 60 rink as well that's since closed down. These kids learn to skate in Greece on these little studio rinks, and there is no development cup team without all these kids skating in Greece being, led by names that Morel, Dimitraki, Yotiev Karpidi, Spiro, Plutsis. They help coach these kids to have this opportunity to play this development cup. It just happened.
Yeah, and that's fantastic, right? And as you said, you mentioned a couple of names there, and Jimmy as well, that, the drive that it takes to keep this sport alive, because without these people pushing, then the sport could have died out in Greece.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned there, of course, have been a lot of hurdles on the way. You mentioned lack of governance support, and also which governmental department you belong to, like sporting department. That has been one thing. And then you mentioned also IIHF has some requirements to what you need to play internationally. And I believe that Greece ticks all the boxes except for the full-size rink.
That's it. That's all that's left.
Yeah. So so close, but there's still this one thing, and still going strong. And I think, was it 2011 that you took the silver, that Greece won the silver?
2010 in Luxembourg.
In 2010. Some nice results there. And as you mentioned now, which is arguably the most important, the development cup with the up and coming, because there is a younger generation now in Greece that you mentioned that has started playing on these small rinks, but that they are really good.
Yes. Yeah, they absolutely are good. And I'm not even talking about, some of the older teammates who were younger back when we were playing that are their kind of mid-late 30s now. There's a batch in there from 16 to 24. They can play, and we just got to keep on developing them and get them coached up and give them opportunities. They just need more experience. So the more tournaments like the development cup that we can do, their development will accelerate, right? Because, when you don't play a lot of games on a big rink, you play hockey differently. So it was a really interesting experience, to go from the first practice we had Slovakia till the last game, to just watch their sort of IQ and how they were playing. I mean, it was really a hockey stick, not to use a pun, in terms of the difference from day one to day 11. And it was very rewarding to see. And so, everyone has a lot of very different opinions on how to proceed. The results, we live in a results-oriented society. But the one thing that I thought that we were in agreement with was, we're not measuring results in wins and losses, because there's a lot of roster shenanigans, as with these types of things. And, are they really truly a national team, or are they, getting North Americans with passports and that whole thing? And so, we were very much a very clean, this team could go play in a world championship for the most part. And that was the idea, was to send a team that could grow and develop. So when we could get eligible, if somebody were to build a rink, we'd be ready to go. So we've talked about it with the Federation in terms of the long game, in terms of a 5 and 10-year plan. And I think that we made a nice first step to that sort of plan with this tournament.
Will this be an annual thing, the Development Cup?
Hope so. That's the goal. Funding is always a challenge. We didn't get much, if any, help at all for this year. We did a GoFundMe page, and then we did some private donations. And sort of, as the phrase goes, nickel and dimed our way to get the coverage for the cost. They're not inexpensive endeavors when you add, 8-9 days in a hotel and plane tickets and meals and all that. But I'm very hopeful that this will be an annual thing, and we will continue to follow the 5-10-year plan that's been laid out. And I'm hopeful that, I'm included in that. I'm the general manager of this team. It doesn't mean I will be of the next team. I'm hopeful that they find value in what I'm doing. And once we sort of get into a sort of a process, then it really, you can sort of get everybody involved and have hockey people and hockey seats, right? You do this, you do that. Whether it's Jimmy and Yoti and Spiro and the guys, and I know those are single names for everybody out there, but it takes truly all of us, right? It takes a community to do it. So this was really just the first start. It had to be done a certain way, and we'll see where the future goes.
Yeah, definitely. So on that point, you mentioned you are the general manager of this team. So what were your responsibilities with the development cup team?
Ultimately, the start of it is setting up a process from which we could select a team. Tryouts is not necessarily a word that is common, maybe even in the Greek culture, let alone hockey. So we did a full tryout, kind of capped it at kind of 50 years and younger. There were some rules with the development cup. You could have more than a couple people over 40, but you sort of had to manage how many you could play at any given time, right? So we had them and the whole team had to be average age 30 and below. So we had those sort of roster rules from the IHF. And we had probably 50 kids over, and there's about 8 kids that were not there that were eligible Greeks living outside Greece. We did a weekend tryout in Athens. So that was kind of the start of the process and the responsibilities. And we cut that down to about 34, 36. And then we did a secondary tryout in Sofia in Bulgaria in early March. And from that team, we selected the final 25-man roster. Or 22, was it? 22, sorry.
Interesting. So you mentioned also that you might be the general manager if there is one next year, if they want you and so forth. So who are they? Was there a voting process to get you to this position, or how did you get the general manager position?
I had been introduced probably 3 years back now to the president of the federation, the Winter Sports Federation, which hockey falls underneath. And we had some dialogue about, who are you? What part of that process? What are you doing, etc.? How did you get involved with Greek hockey? I mean, that was really it. And then there was nothing for a couple years plus. Then we happened to reconnect, and there was discussion about getting Greece into the development cup, and Greece had gotten approved. And it was like, how do we, would you like to do something, right? And help put this together. So that's how it started. There was really not a voting process. It was, do you want to be the GM? Okay, fine.
Yeah, so it's the federation that decided.
Yes, sir.
Understand. There was recently also, Greece have started, I don't know if it's 5 years now, with a 3-on-3 tournament.
7.
So 7 years. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's something that started with the local community in Greece, or maybe even only Athens.
Yep.
Which has now grown to getting international traction, with people flying in from Sweden and many other countries as well.
Sweden, Cyprus, to name a few. It's basically a celebration of the game. It's an all-day tournament. The rule and setup instruction is amazing. It's hard. It's very hard. Try and play 3-on-3 for 4 minutes straight. 4-man teams, 3 men on the ice. You need that break. It's hard, especially my age, right? But yeah, so the local community started it. Jimmy had kind of was behind it, along with Themi, Alex, and Jason and Spiro, and they were kind of running it. Even when Jimmy was in Montreal, his hands were all over sort of the administration of it to make sure it went off. And it's just grown into this incredible event.
Definitely. I still have PTSD from year 1 when I lost the final on penalties. So I haven't won the golden shovel yet, but I need to give it another try another year.
The boys from Sweden got a pretty good grip on it now, 5 years in a row. We'll see if next year is another year. See if someone can take them down. But they're great. They're great guys, by the way. I've gotten to know them over the last few years, and it's just the whole thing is really a celebration of hockey.
Exactly.
Literally, that's the last event of the year. They turn the lights off, they turn the electric off, and the ice is gone.
Yeah, so that was my point also, that's, as you said, a celebration of hockey is a great way of putting it, but also a great way to, promote Greek hockey as well. As we said, that you started very locally, and now it's not global, but it's growing.
The awareness, right? And And then on the development side, Greece for many years was locked into these sort of, they call them somatia, these registered teams and what have you. And for the first time this year, and there was a lot of sort of inequality of those teams, right? And for the first time this year, spearheaded by Jimmy again, they created a 4-team league. They spread all the players out amongst 4 teams to create 4 very equal teams. The Athens Ice Hockey League was born, and they ran it and had an incredible season. And that those championships ended right before the 3-on-3. So it's kind of everything sort of concluded right at the end there. And for those kids that played in that league and the older players as well, to have something with a scoreboard and a league and proper and standings and score sheets and statistics really benefited the development of Generation Next. So everything's there but the rink, Marcus.
Yeah, we need someone to put in some investments to build that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's been the talk for many years.
Too many years. I'm hopeful. I'm certainly knocking on doors and having conversations, as are many other people. I'm hopeful that we get it done within as part of this 5-10 year plan that I mentioned earlier.
I really hope so as well. So just to plug the Greek ice hockey, there is, if someone wants to read up more on it, Jimmy has a great website with some history and information. So it's icehockey.gr. And also I think it's Greece ice hockey on most of the social media as well, if to follow that.
Yes. There's probably one other one that's Greek ice hockey, but that's a different sort of person running that whole thing. But yeah, the ones you mentioned are sort of the quasi-official sites. Then of course you can get news on the actual Winter Sports Federation site. There's some hockey stuff on there from time to time as well.
So leaving Greek ice hockey, and some questions that I like to finish off with is, has there been any bumps on the road in your career? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Hockey specifically?
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, most people associate bumps with injuries. I've been very fortunate. Somebody asked me that question, part of the USA Hockey thing, and I said, other than 5 broken noses and 50 some odd stitches in my face, I'm doing okay.
How about from the business perspective? If now with the Tomahawks, for example, it's pretty recent, but still.
Yeah, the Tomahawks is a year. It was a transition year. I think it's a learning experience from both sides, right? I'm bringing sort of my business side to the hockey. The folks that were working there brought, their hockey, what they've experienced to me, and we're, sort of kind of meeting in the middle to create a better everything, right? Business, hockey for the kids, fan engagement, etc. So really not too many hiccups other than, we lost in the first round of the playoffs. Our head coach resigned after the season he's been the head coach for about 10 years. And his kids are getting an age where he wanted to spend more time with his family. And I certainly respected that. He walked away from the last year of his contract. So, a lot of the early stuff, even while I was in Slovakia, was managing the hiring of a new head coach, which we wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. And we have a new head coach in place and ready for the draft. And so, yeah, specific to the Tomahawks, it's sort of year one and onward and upward.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It is exciting. We won. We invested a lot in our broadcast last summer because ultimately I would like to get our games on actually proper television within our community to help again bring awareness. And we literally just found out yesterday that we won the NATV Production Award from the league as having the best broadcast in the entire league, which is really exciting for everybody involved with the broadcast because, we went from 1 camera to 7. Obviously we upgraded the quality of the camera, instant replays, in-game interviews, and the whole thing, trying to make it look like a broadcast that you and I know from the pros. So we did our version of that, and it was nice to be recognized by the league.
That's fantastic. Is that like AI cameras, or are there 7 people managing these cameras?
We've got two people managing the main camera and the mobile that goes around. The rest are sort of auto kind of AI cameras, and the one underneath, we have one underneath the scoreboard now that does the whole 360 thing. When you see that shot looking down the face off at center ice.
Yeah.
So we got those now, and it kind of whirls around, does the 360s, and we got a couple right over the goals that we tied into the league because we're doing sort of goal reviews now, not challenges, but we have a goal review process as well. So the league's helped a lot too in terms of just we launched our own TV broadcast system this year called NATV. So that was the first year of that as well. So the league's helped a lot for everything to kind of just be, bring the quality up. Because sometimes you can't be at the game, but you want to see something that you can at least decently watch on a stream.
Definitely. And that's what we talked about before, right? The game day, not at the stadium. How can you watch the game if you're not there?
Exactly. And I view it, people like, do you worry like with the TV? Oh, if you put it on TV, people will come to the game. I go, yeah, I view it differently. I view it as a 3-hour commercial that people see it and it jumps out at them. They go, okay, I need to go there. I need to be in the building. And this, you have to watch the game live. There's no better, like hockey is meant to be watched live. The sound, the smell, the ice, it just, you don't get hockey unless you watch it live.
100%. What would be your best advice for a young person who wants to pursue a career in the ice hockey business from more of a business side, not as a player?
Yeah, from the business side, there's so many angles to it, right? Do you want to be a coach? So when you're done playing and you're done getting whatever experience as a player, you immediately get into go be an equipment manager, go be an assistant coach, be a video coach, right? Whatever it is, find places where you can be part of the hockey staff if you want to go that route. On the business side, it depends what your interests are, right? There's one other thing on the hockey side, you can go into there's a sports management now, right? Where you can go to school, tie it in with your maybe becoming a lawyer with a concentration on sports management, and you can be an agent, and hook up with one of the sports agencies, right? On the business side behind the scenes, sales is sales, right? So, you can get in and help sell tickets, help sell sponsorships. If you're in marketing, right, go be the marketing department, be the communications department. So, all of the disciplines of business, right? Marketing, sales, communication, etc. They all have a place in the sports world. So if you're a marketing major and you want to work for a hockey team, try and find an internship, right, with the sports team, your local sports team, in any of those disciplines that you like, right? You need to start in college getting those experiences in conjunction with whatever major that you're going to school for.
For sure. And I think internship is obviously something I've discussed a lot on this podcast, but I think it's so crucial because it's something you can do during your studies also to not only know what you like, but maybe more importantly, to know what you don't like.
Exactly. And that's as important, as you said, as anything, right? A lot of people don't learn what they don't like until it's too late.
That's true. I'd like to finish off with a networking question. So who from your network do you think would be a good guest on this podcast?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've got some contacts that actually are, general managers, assistant general managers of National Hockey League teams. I could maybe connect you there with one of those gentlemen.
That would have been amazing. As you know, I'm a hockey guy, so that's of highest interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? Final words before we sign off here?
No, we don't know each other that well, but we've been aware of each other for years, right? And so I've followed you and both in Greece and after you left Greece, and you'd mentioned before the call that you've certainly been aware of me just as one of the kind of gang of Greek hockey, and certainly really appreciate the opportunity to connect and talk like this. I had a blast, and my point is I love what you're doing because it's all about just hockey, and hockey. Like that. I'm a one-trick pony, I sort of say I'm a hockey guy disguised as a finance guy. At my core, though, I'm a hockey guy.
Thank you. And I'm a big fan of you. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.